Howdy Hive Scum and welcome to a special painting tutorial. This one's very special for two reasons. Firstly, I'm going to be using the AK Interactive Playmarkers. These are pens. They are paint pens and I have no idea where this is going to go. We're going to be attempting a Grimdark paint scheme using only the Playmarkers in this box, hopefully. We're going to wing it. We're going to fly by the seat of the pants here and see how we go by the end of this video. I'd love to know if you've had any experience with these play markers. They are certainly very interesting. I'm going to talk through the processes and the ideas behind using these and just see how we go using a set of pens to paint Grimdark miniatures with. Now this set I won actually at Adepticon as a prize playing Necromunda, and this is the only set that I've got. This one is for skeletons and zombies, and these are acrylic paints in the form of a pen. Now I've never used anything like this before and I'm not normally one for gimmicks. However, as I did get these for free, I thought this would be a really good opportunity to see what I can do with them and see if I can bring out the Grimdark using these pens. We get 6 colours in the box. We get a white, an off-white, a sort of light grey, a nice pink, which is a bit odd for an undead set, a black and what I think is a sort of zombie skin as well. If you've watched any of my painting tutorials, specifically for Grimdark stuff, you'll know that I prefer a limited palette anyway, so cutting this down to just 6 paints here, at least for the core sort of paint scheme in this idea, I think is pretty good. So they appear to have what is a brush tip. So these are pens with a pump at the one end and a brush tip at the other end, and the idea is that you load this brush tip with paint using the pump at the top of the pen. Now, I can't say this looks too fine, so it might be quite hard to do any detail, and especially things like edge highlighting and eyeballs and such. So that's why I'm specifically leaning into Grimdark here, because I want things to be messy and artistic with these. The model that we're going to be painting up today was gifted to me by my good friend Matt, Hive Market Minis. If you don't know who Hive Market Minis is and you're in the Necromunda community or you're involved in Necromunda in any way, please do go check out his Instagram. Fantastic stuff, an amazing kit basher and an amazing painter too. This was a gift to me, which was very, very kind of him. So I thought that I would absolutely do it justice by making a painting video for this special miniature. You can see there are a few Ogryn bits, I believe, ogre bits from Blood Bowl in here. We've got 2 huge scimitar-like swords and sort of orky armor pieces on this guy as well. I'm not sure how many bits went into it, but definitely some green stuff as well. Now, having never used these pens before, I have no idea how opaque they are or how thick the paint comes out, so I have based my miniature or primed my miniature with Chaos Black spray here. I could have gone for white perhaps if I wanted more of a brighter finish, but I'm not really sure at this point, and I like to start all of my priming from black generally. Okay, we're going to kick things off with dirty white. I want the skin on this miniature to be really pallid and horrible and disgusting, so I've gone for quite a light shade of white here. This is dirty white, so it's pretty much almost akin to maybe a Wraithbone from Citadel, or perhaps like an Ivory from Army Painter or something like that. It's pretty bright and light, but it's certainly not white. Wow, okay, so this is coming out very thin and it is somewhat not too opaque, so there is definitely some transparency to it. It flows out of the pen really nicely, and you know, you do have slightly more control being that you're holding a pen. It's weird actually, it just feels like you have more control over a brush, I suppose, because it's bigger and thicker, but also you're holding it like a pen as well. So I feel like this is part of the gimmick here, is that we're just better and more natural with holding pens than we are with paintbrushes generally. Now, as I start blocking out the skin here, I can see that I'm going to need at least 2 or 3 layers of this paint because of its sort of transparent nature. Also, it kind of comes out a bit blotchy in general as well. It's definitely like a thinned down paint, which I think overall is a good thing, because I'd rather do several thinner layers than one big globby thick layer generally. How good is this miniature though? It is fantastic. I'll definitely be using it in Necromunda as a Venator champion or leader of some sort with perhaps bulging biceps and 2 great swords. That would be absolutely sick, but for now we're going to get this guy painted up before I put him on the table. Even though the paint that's coming out of these play markers is quite thin and blotchy, the process of applying it is actually really satisfying. It feels like you're using a pen and not a brush. I would say that the overall consistency of the paint that's coming out here is closer to maybe a Citadel contrast paint, but a little bit thicker and a little bit more chalky. Perhaps that's just because I'm using the white, and obviously white pigment is in there, so it is a little bit more chalky than, say, a darker color generally. Now, the only sort of vivid or bright color that I got in this set was this light pink, so I've decided to use this pink as the only sort of real bit of vibrancy on this model, and that's going to be for the trousers or pants if you're an American or an Australian. I'm going to block out the pink on these pants now and just see how this one flows out compared to the off dirty white. Now, this pink is definitely not covering quite as well as the dirty white, and I can tell again that I'm probably going to need to do a few layers here, usually 2 or 3 I reckon in this case, but we'll see how we go. So while I wait for those 2 colors to dry, I'm going to break out the zombie skin. This is a very pale khaki, sort of rotten flesh type thing, and I'm going to use this on the boots and the little socks that he's got there. It doesn't really matter. I'm going for minimalist sort of Grimdark here, so I'm going to do the entirety of the socks, the boots, and any leather on the shoes as well in this one color, because generally speaking, my basing later on is going to include some integration, I suppose, through pigment powders. So it doesn't really matter if there's detail that's obscured on the shoes and the socks here. This is a nice color, and it seems to cover a little bit better than the other 2 so far. Definitely closer to the dirty white. Okay, now that first layer of the dirty white on the flesh is dry, I'm going to go in again and add another thin layer, just making sure to get rid of some of that blotchiness as I go. You do have a fair amount of control because of the nature of this paint being fairly thin and watery, so you can push things around a little bit. Just make sure that it doesn't pool too much, because it's easy to get this pooling in areas that you don't want it. Now for something completely different, let's try adding some of these paints to a wet palette to see how they react when we mix them, trying to blend and highlight as we go. So what I've got here on my Army Painter wet palette is the pink, the bright white, and the dirty white here. And what I'm going to do is mix these together to different ratios and try and highlight up the skin and the pink on the trousers as well. So I'm already cheating here by using a stippling technique in favor of using the paint pen brush. I'm going to go with a stipple all over the flesh here with a mixture of the white and the dirty white to sort of highlight some of the musculature on this big fat guy. I want to add a little bit of texture to this miniature because after all we are going for Grimdark, and I find that generally speaking stippling is the best way to create nice rough natural texture when highlighting your miniatures and building up a bit of vibrancy. Let's break out the black now and see how this does in terms of coverage. I'm going to use the black all over any areas that I want to be either metal or leather. So the straps around his torso, as well as the big iron circle on his belly, the helmet, and the swords of course too, as well as the handles, being as neat as I can with this giant brush tip. The black definitely covers a lot nicer than any of the other colors so far, and it's a lot smoother too because of the absence of any pale or white pigments in there, so less chalky and a lot more smooth. This is really satisfying with the black, I have to say, and I can already see a really strong case of using this to rim out bases on miniatures very quickly and very smoothly, but we'll get to that later. Now our Ogryn or Ogre is looking rather flat and a bit sort of action figure-y at the moment, so I'm going to add some shades to the mix here. Now I'm already cheating again by using a slightly different medium here, but we're going to push things into the Grimdark by dulling everything down and making things have a nice sort of vibe to it, using some warm skin shade from Army Painter here on the skin. We're also going to be using Voodoo Shade and Grove Hollow Shadow as well. These are 3 of the Army Painter sort of shades that you get in the John Blanche sets. These are from 3 different sets, I believe, as well, but they're all really nice washes. One is perfect for flesh, one is perfect for sort of warmer colors, and the last one, the Grave Hollow, I believe it's called, is a sort of greenish wash that I really like to add to any sort of fabrics and stuff. I start out by applying the flesh shade here all over the fleshy parts just to add a bit more definition and depth to everything. This is bringing some heat and warmth to the miniature. On the shoes and socks here, we're going to be using that Grove Hollow or Grave Hollow greenish wash. This is a really beautiful color, especially over this sort of dirty zombie flesh. I think it matches really nicely and gives lots and lots of depth to this color. I left it there for the day with the base colors and the shades done, a little bit of stippling and sort of minor highlights, and I came back the next day with renewed vigor using some Villainy Ink Goons Grime instead of Streaking Grime, just to add lots of grimdark, dirty beautifulness. This is an enamel wash, and I tend to find I prefer this to, say, Streaking Grime or an oil wash in some cases. It's a brownish, slightly greenish wash here, and I tend to find it's a bit thinner than, say, a Streaking Grime as well. You can do more with it, you can add several layers, and you can thin it down with mineral spirits as well to get it acting exactly how you want it to act. It also dries quite a bit quicker than, say, an oil wash as well. It's also got a really nice matte finish to it. When applying Goons Grime, I tend to stipple it on and sort of dab it into the areas where I want it. I don't just brush it on because I want that extra texture that you get from adding it in this way. After leaving the Goons Grime to dry for 15-20 minutes, it's really up to you how long you want it to cure. I like it to cure a little bit, not dry completely. I then go in with these cute little makeup sticks that I got from Temu. They are definitely preferable to using cotton buds. They don't leave any sort of residue behind. They're nice and smooth. They have a sponge tip on the end. I think there's something around eyeshadow blenders. I think that's what they're called. Anyway, they're double-ended and they go a long way. I got hundreds of these for a few dollars. These are fantastic. First up though, I tend to just go in and take off the excess moisture with a dry end. Then I will go in and dip it in some odorless mineral spirits to remove any sort of surface grime that I want to remove, particularly on those uppermost areas. This is known widely as the reductive technique, and it's perfect for Grimdark in general. You'll see a lot of people doing it with Streaking Grime, with oil washes. I do it a lot as well, but I do find that the Goons Grime is just better than other products. It's certainly more expensive, but it is really good for this process. Once that Goons Grime is dry, I'm now going to go in with another effect paint here. Now, I blocked all of the metal out in black, as you saw earlier. What I'm going to be using now, though, is a product called Dirty Down Rust. You should already know about this because this product is revolutionary. In fact, all of their products are, but this is the absolute most iconic product that they've done. Dirty Down Rust. This stuff is magic in a bottle. It behaves and acts just like rust when it's onto a surface, and you can manipulate it and do different things with it. You must shake the bottle fiercely before you open it. There is a metal ball in these bottles, so make sure that you're getting that moving around a lot. You really do need to mix it up before you apply it. Make sure you use an old brush and just slather it all over the areas where you want rust building up. What you can then do is add water and reactivate parts of it depending on how thin or how thick you want your rust to be. If you want it to be very dark and thick rust, a very sort of reddish brown, then don't add any water. If you water it down though, it will go more yellow and it will flow into the recesses better. A mixture of watered down parts and thicker pure rust is preferable. Now, Dirty Down Rust out of the bottle, when you apply it, it just looks like a very, very dark brown, reddish sort of wash. It is quite runny. Of course, you can add water to this to make it more runny, but the effect does change slightly, and you can reactivate it with more water as well, or even mineral spirits if you want to. I absolutely love this stuff though, and once you get the hang of applying it and manipulating it, you can get some amazing effects. And the reason why I'm doing this on black is because I'm going to go in afterwards and add some metallics over the top, some scratches and some sort of battle damage to all of the metals to really sell the effect of rusty, dirty metal. I'm now going to go back to my play markers, in this case the trousers with the pink, and I'm going to sort of use the brush tip on this pen in more of a stippling motion just to bring back some of the vibrancy over the top of that goon's grime. I'm being a bit more careful and a bit more deliberate and considered here, just using the tip of this pen to create sort of stippling motion, I suppose, just on the upper edges where the light will catch on these trousers. Same process for the skin. We're going all the way back to dirty white with the play marker here, and again I'm just using the very tip of this pen to apply the paint in a sort of stippling motion, bringing back some of that vibrancy to the original color, the dirty white, over the top of the goon's grime that we applied earlier. I'm also going to do the same with the zombie skin color on the shoes and socks as well, even though most of this will be obscured by some of the pigments we use on the base later on. I'm pretty happy where things are going at this point. The trousers look a bit more textured and a bit more vibrant, and the skin is looking properly flesh-like at this point. While this is drying though, I'm going to go in with a Citadel technical basing paint. I think this one is Martian Iron Crust or something like that. I'm going to add this all over the base just to add some minimal texture all over, because we're going to go for more of an ash wastes kind of desert vibe. Now while that base is drying, it can take some time. It's better to be proactive and just crack on with something else. So the next thing I'm going to do is try and make the skin a little bit more sickly looking by adding some Druchii Violet, watered down quite a bit, maybe a 1:5 part ratio, just into the recesses around the muscles and in the sort of cracks and crevices of the flesh around the nipple and areas like this. This will make the skin pop a little bit more, give the muscles more definition, and just make everything look a bit more gross and sweaty all over. I'm then going to do the same with the pants or trousers here as well, using this time Carroburg Crimson. Carroburg Crimson is a really nice reddish pink sort of wash, and it's quite dark as well. I'm actually going to use this straight out of the pot as opposed to watering it down, and what I'm doing here is adding it to the sort of underneath of the trousers and the sort of cracks and crevices as well, and then cleaning off my brush, adding some water to the mix and just kind of feathering it out throughout just to create a bit more depth to these otherwise flat looking trousers. Now to the metal parts. You can see that this beautiful dirty down rust effect has dried, and it is creating all sorts of texture and different colors of rust in the recesses of these metal areas. Now what we need to do to make them look actually metal is reach for a dark metal, in this case Iron Breaker, and I'm just going to go around and edge highlight and add little spots of metal as I like. I'm then going to go in with a sponge later on as well and add a little bit more battle damage to all of these areas that we painted black earlier. I'm really happy where things are going so far, but I think this is going to really shine if we add just one further technical paint, and this one is of course Blood for the Blood God. This is Citadel's blood in a pot. What I'm going to do here is get it onto a large flat brush. I'm going to flick it all over the model, sparingly of course. I don't want to go too crazy here, just to add some little flecks of blood and spatters of blood that this guy's going to have on him from cleaving people in half in the ash wastes. We're nearing the end now, so it's time for basing. I'm reaching for a bright, vivid, rusty orange pigment here, and I'm going to stipple this and smush it into the entire base. One thing that's great about this is it pretty much matches the color of the Citadel texture paint underneath. I'm just going to coat this all over the base and up the shoes as well, like I mentioned earlier, just to unify things a bit more and make this guy look like he is in the desert. For some variation, I'm now reaching for a yellow pigment, and I'm just going to add this to a few key spots on the base, 1, 2, or 3 little spots, and then I'm going to feather it out using a stippling brush and just sort of blow away the excess, giving a sort of bit of light variation and different colors of sand on the base as well. This just finally makes things look really good. It's very simple, it's easy to achieve, and it really pops next to a dark miniature. And finally, back to our play marker. Let's see how the black does to rim out the bases here. This is the flat black. I have a feeling this is going to cover the rim of the base really, really nicely here. Again, though, I might need to do more than one coat, but I think this is going to apply a lot thinner and smoother than, say, an Abaddon black or something like that. So I can see myself using this instead of many other products just to rim out the bases on my miniatures. Well, that's just immensely satisfying. It's covering really well. It's really, really easy to do, and it's really smooth as well. I think only 2 layers of this just to get things nice and dark and black here. And then we're on to the glamour shots. Okay, so here are my final thoughts. The play markers are really, really interesting. Of course, the entire point of this video was to demonstrate what you can do with them, and of course I did need to do a lot of other stuff. I had to bring in some metal paints, some technical paints, and some washes as well, but I did keep things fairly simple in terms of color. I stuck with the colors that were in the paint selection in these play markers, and I've got to say I really do like them. The main thing I like about them is how sort of runny they are. They're a really nice consistency, I suppose. You don't need to thin them down at all. They are perfect just as they are. Also, I really like the fact that they feel like you're actually using a pen, which might sound really obvious, but the way that you would hold a pen is somewhat more comfortable and natural than it is holding a little tiny brush, and they're just really nice and refreshing to use. I will say that I wouldn't tend to use them for most things. I prefer to have slightly more control with a smaller brush tip, that's for sure. If you could get smaller versions of these with, say, a more accurate pointy brush tip, then I'd see a lot more use in them. I think the main thing here, though, is that you can push things to the limit with these guys. You can stipple with them. You can put them into a wet palette and mix them and blend them and then apply them with a brush. But you can also just use things like the flat black for basing out your rims. It would be really interesting to get hold of some metals as well to see what you can do with those, but sadly I didn't have any metals. Overall, though, I'm really, really happy with where this paint job went. Again, thanks to Matt Hive Market Minis for supplying this gorgeous, gorgeous kit bash from Necromunda. It is a fantastic looking model, and I think I've done it justice, guys. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this video. It was very, very simple and easy to achieve, and I think if you follow the steps that I've done in this video, you'd be able to do something very similar as well. Anyway, these are the glamour shots of this guy. I've got to find a name for him at some point, but I thoroughly enjoyed doing this video, and I'm excited to use these pens again, perhaps when I get more colors from AK. Anyway, I'll be back with another video real soon. Peace out.